Hey guys, this is John Corabi from the Dead Daisies, and you are listening to Hair Band Heaven. Rock and turn it up.
All right, what's the Dead Daisies tour plans this year?
Wow. Well, the record is coming out on April 6th. It's called Burn It Down. And then we are actually getting together in New York, I believe the 20th of March. And we're going to rehearse there for about a week and a half, start putting a set together, try and get all that locked up. And then I think we're heading right over to Scotland. We're going to rehearse again over there just to make sure once because the gear is going to fly over. We gotta rehearse a day or so and make sure that everything gets over there in one piece and is functioning. And then we start a tour of the UK and Europe. And I think our management is trying to put something together. And then we're going to Japan. We're going to South America. We're doing Europe, I guess, a couple times, but I think they're trying to put something together for North America as well. So we'll see what happens. But we're going to be out from like March 20th till right before Christmas.
Cool. And you got some solo shows coming up?
I just did a few. I did about a week's worth. You know, I haven't really done too much this year because I'm kind of in the process of remodeling my house, which is a horrible experience. If you want to see a moron with a power tool, I'll have photos of that later. But so I've been doing that. But I've done a few. I did about a week's worth. I went up the East Coast to Maine, and now I'm getting ready to do about another week's worth in the Midwest, and then it's off to Daisyland.
Cool. So, yeah, we got tickets to see you in Columbus in a couple weeks.
Yes.
Shrunken Head.
Yep. Actually, I have to call a bunch of these places because I'm actually coming in I own a tour bus. So, because the shows there's quite a bit of distance between some of the shows, so I'm going to do it in a bus, so I don't have to. I can just drive and I don't have to worry about hotels and all that other shit. But I got to call them and make sure that they have room for our parking for this thing. It's a beast. So,
are your solo shows mainly acoustic, or is this
Yeah, it's just me for now because I was trying to do some band stuff, but my son, in my solo band, my son is my drummer. He's kind of in dadland right now. Him and his girlfriend just had identical twin daughters.
Oh, cool.
So he's doing that. And then the other guys in my solo band are actually playing with Gene Simmons in his solo band. So some of the timing was a little off, but so I'm just basically going to these clubs and walking in with an acoustic guitar and, doing my thing and saying hi to some people and then bailing and heading to the next gig.
All right. You recently released the One Night Nashville album with you did the whole Motley Crue album. That's great. The Rat Pack, the vinyl edition, and they went all out on it. That thing had some great extras in it. Can you talk a little bit about that?
Honestly, they've had it for a year and a half now, almost 2 years. But every time I was getting ready to release it, the Daisies would put a new record out, and it's actually weird how it worked out now this year. It is somewhat close to the Daisies release, which I'm not real happy about. I didn't really want to do it that way, but I'm like, I got to put this thing out at some point. You know what I mean?
Right.
But Joe O'Brien at Rat Pack, he did an amazing job putting it together. Like, we literally recorded one show. I just rehearsed the band. We went in, we did one show, put it on Pro Tools, gave it to Michael Wagner. He mixed it, did an awesome job. And then because it was just the one show, like there's some little glitches and shit in there that I know where they're at. I don't know if anybody else can hear them, but there's a few little glitches. So I just said, you know what? It is what it is, blemishes and all. I wanted to put something together that was, I don't want to say, exactly like, but I said just reminiscent of Aerosmith's live bootleg. So Joe and their art department, they totally understood what I wanted, and I just got the vinyl. He just sent me a copy of it because I hadn't seen it. But I just got it, and I'm like, this is exactly what I was talking about. It's kind of, it's a little dirty looking. You open it up, there's tons of pictures and just all this cool shit. So I'm very pleased with the record.
Yeah,
and
when you opened up my copy,
to be honest with you, like,
it's great.
Yeah, it's actually weird, but the record, much to my surprise, is actually charting on Billboard. So I'm very stoked.
That's
great.
What I mean?
Yeah. You know what, dude? I'm like, this year's going to be insane. Like, I got the One Night in Nashville came out in January. That came out in January. Dead Daisies is coming out April 6th. That's coming out April 6th. And now I just got word from a record label in London called Rock Candy Records. They are re-releasing the Scream album this year.
Oh, that's awesome.
Yeah, it's going to be an interesting year. It's going to be cool.
Speaking of the Scream, you've got to work with numerous amazing musicians over the years, like Mick Mars and Bobby Blotzer and Bruce Kulick. Is there anyone that you've wanted to work with that you haven't been able to yet?
Paul McCartney would be nice, but he's a little busy and he doesn't take my calls. But I would love to sit down. I think ultimately, if I had to pick three people, I would love to sit down with Steven Tyler and write a song. I would love to sit down with Jimmy Page and write a song. And I would love to sit down with Paul McCartney and write a song. That to me, and then it's like you'll never hear from me again. I'll just sit in my backyard and just drink myself into oblivion and just tell whoever will listen to me stories of me writing songs with those three guys. That'll be my life. Boom, done.
Speaking of guys like that, do you think there'll ever come a time where there's like another huge rock star, like someone like Steven Tyler or Robert Plant, someone like that?
You know what? I think we've gotten close. To me, like, and this might sound weird, but that was one of the things that, it's funny. My wife is a bit younger than me, and I was showing her photos on my Instagram. I just put some photos on. And I said, this is the stuff that I grew up listening to. And she was looking at these photos of, like, Steven Tyler in the 70s and David Bowie and Ian Gillan and David Coverdale and Mark Farner from Grand Funk Railroad and just all these bands. And she goes, fuck, like, I was totally born 10 years too late. You know what I mean?
Right.
And I said, yeah, man. I said, it's weird. There's just not any rock stars anymore. There aren't any. And, but I think we've gotten close. Like, to me, like, a lot of people didn't like him when he came out. They're like, oh, he's, they didn't like his message or his music or whatever. But I thought Marilyn Manson was probably the closest thing to, like, a David Bowie, Alice Cooper kind of vibe. You know what I mean? So I was like, you know what? Love or hate the guy, that guy's a fucking rock star. He's a rock star.
He was polarizing.
Yes. And I think another guy that, had that thing, for lack of a better term, was Chris Robinson, too, in the Black Crowes. There was something where I looked at Chris Robinson, I'm like, okay, I love their music, I love his lyrics, but he's just got a vibe about him. Like, you know what I mean? He's a rock star. But it's unfortunate because I just, a lot of people, I look at some of the bands and I just go, wait, that's the guy that's singing that song? He looks like the dude that just fucking fixed my bathroom. You know what I mean? And so there's that thing. I kind of miss those days of, the David Bowies and the Alice Coopers and the Freddie Mercurys and God, Mark Farner. Like, there was, Mark Farner didn't wear makeup, didn't do, whatever. There was just something. He had that thing. He had that waist-length hair and played his ass off, sang his ass off. The guy was a rock star.
Right. And,
I kind of miss it. I do miss that. And it's funny, I torture my wife. She's a hairdresser, and I'm like, I'll get dressed before I, try some shit on before I go on tour. And, I'm like, does this look okay? Blah, blah, blah. And I'm like, I just always feel like I fall short on the rock star thing. You know what I mean? But, it's something I definitely strive for. I feel like a person in my position should walk into a room, with some crazy fur coat and a hat and beads and, whatever, and sunglasses, and just everybody just go, okay, obviously that guy's not a dentist. You know what I mean? So
right. They should know you're the singer.
Yeah, you know what I mean? And, so I don't know. It is a bit lacking though nowadays.
Yeah, pretty vanilla.
So, you just had the 20th anniversary of Union's debut album. Is there any chance of reissuing those?
To be honest with you, unbeknownst to Bruce and I was just in Germany last year, and apparently there's a record label over there that's selling the box set, and they've got both studio albums in some sort of double CD thing. So I came home, and I was all pissed, and I'm like, Bruce, did you know about this? Did you, he goes, I don't even know what you're talking about. So then he looked into it, and, we're like, how does this happen? Like, how does a record label put out shit without the artist knowing about it? You know what I mean?
Wow.
But it's out there. If anybody wants it, it's available, and I can't even remember the name of the label, but they're out of Germany.
But you guys don't get no cut of that or anything.
I couldn't. You know what? It's just weird. Like, every time you call and you're like, hey, what's going on with this? And they always lay that magical word on you, recoup. We haven't recouped yet. You know what I mean? I'm like, oh, okay. But, you know what? Union was a great band.
Sure.
I had a great time with all those guys, and, hopefully at some point, I know Bruce and Brent and I have talked about it. I would love nothing more than, when everybody has some time to, even if it was just a small run for like a couple of weeks, let's just go out and do a couple shows and have some fun and blow the dust off of some of this stuff and just go out and say hi to some of the fans. You know what I mean? I think it would be fun.
Yeah, that'd be great to see live.
I mean, we've talked about it, but it's just trying to organize everyone's schedule. At the time, Brent was playing with Slash. Jamie was playing with Roger Daltrey. Bruce is, he's always out with Grand Funk Railroad, and I've been doing the Daisies and all my stuff. So it's trying to organize everybody like, hey, we've got this month and a half right here. Let's go in and rehearse and then go out and do a few shows, so we'll see. We never really split up. It wasn't that we didn't like each other. It was just, we just got other offers to do some things, and the band just kind of went to the side of the road for a minute. But we're all very good friends. We all talk about it, how much fun it would be to do. So we'll see.
Yeah, I always thought that was a great band, just kind of like the wrong time or something.
Well, I'm the king of poor timing, so.
A bit of an off-the-wall question. Doing some research just to ask some questions, writing some stuff down. I Googled your name, and IMDb has you credited with some stuff on soundtracks. And, like Freedom is on the Megan Levy soundtrack. And what really caught my attention the most was you're credited with writing credits for a episode of Beavis and Butthead.
I have no idea.
I
You know, the funny thing of it is, you know, I didn't realize it, but you know, you do a record and you give it to the record label, and they do things sometimes, like they'll put something in a soundtrack, or they'll put it in a movie, or, you know, a car commercial, you know what I mean? And you just sit there, like, years later. I don't know what, I think the song Outlaw.
Oh, from Scream.
From the Scream album. Yeah, that's in a movie. I had no idea. I had no idea at all.
That's a bad
I had
song.
no idea. You just told me the song Freedom is in a Megan Lee, you know,
Yep.
yeah, no clue. But it's funny. You know, it's just weird. Like shit'll just happen, and you know, the record labels, you know, they get these opportunities to drop a song here, drop a song there to help the sales on the record, and then years later, you're like, wait, what movie am I in?
Well, yeah.
So,
I was wondering if, you know, if they came to the artist and said, hey, we want to use your song in the soundtrack. But I said what really caught my attention was it says you wrote an episode of Beavis and Butthead. So I assume that somewhere along the lines they used something that you said. And they credited you with writing credits for an episode.
I had no idea. Like, now I know Beavis and Butthead did a thing where they were calling us, in Motley, they were calling us Bennigan's Holiday, or, you know, whatever. So maybe it was just because they mentioned us or mentioned me in a couple of episodes.
That's very possible.
You know, but I didn't write the episode.
I just, like I said, it was so off the wall that I was like, I got asked. You know, I had to see what the story was, if there was a story there. It was just so strange to me.
Yeah, I didn't have anything to do with writing it. I know at one point I was trying to write a TV show, and I did get some interest in it. You know, and you know, but it just never came to fruition. So I'm hoping at some point I can, you know, eventually do that. I think it would be a great idea, but, you know, we'll see. But Beavis and Butthead, nope. No idea what you're talking about.
I don't either, and I couldn't find anything else on the internet anywhere. But like I said, IMDb's got your name tagged to an episode, and I thought, well, I'm talking to Mr. Corabi, I'll just ask him the question, find out.
Well, I remember when I was in Motley, I was singing, and they were like, hey, that guy looks like Howard Stern. What's the name of this song? Oh, it's Bennigan's Holiday. You know, so that's the only thing I can think of. You know, they rode me like a bike on that fucking episode. So I imagine that's what they're talking about.
Well, all right then.
Speaking of Motley, is there any chance you revisit Mick Mars' solo album?
You know what, Mick and I talk. You know, I just sent him this. I just sent him this funny little meme somebody sent me, and it was two photos. Like on one side was Bruno Mars, and on the other side it was Mick Mars, and it was like this little meme, and it said less Bruno Mars, more Mick Mars, and I just sent it to him as a joke, you know. And you know, it's unfortunate. Like Mick had called me and asked me if I would do some stuff with him, and I did the 2 songs. You know, but he went out and did the farewell tour, and while he was out on the farewell tour, I got the Daisies gig. You know, but I mean, you just look at this year. I've got a solo record that just came out. I've got the Daisies record coming out April 6th. You know, and then I got another record coming out from my past. You know, the Union stuff has just been re-released. So I was telling Mick, I go, dude, like, you know, I love you to death, and for us to do a record would require me taking off and just sitting with Mick, you know, for an extended period of time and coming up with really great material. And, you know, Mick totally understood. He's like, I want to get out and I want to start playing. And I go, and I don't want to hold you up. Like, but I think it's, I told Mick, it's imperative. This is your first solo record. You're the only member of Motley Crue. And if I can loosely say myself included, that hasn't done a solo record. I'm like, dude, your first outing's it's got to make a fucking statement. And at this point, I don't want to hold him up, and I don't want to just half-ass something just for him to get product out. You know what I mean? Like, so we talked about it, and he understood, and so apparently he's been very busy writing and recording here in Nashville. I don't want to say anything. It's not my place, but he's got a guy that he's been writing with that's amazing. I know the guy is a very dear friend of mine, and I'm stupidly excited to see what these two guys come up with. Now, whether or not the two songs that I did will be on the record, I don't know. But either way, like, I just helped Mick in that period, and then we kind of went on and, went in separate directions. But there's a good possibility Mick and I love each other to death. So there's a possibility that we could do something in the future. You know what I mean? But right now, I'm just so fucking busy. I don't want to hold them up.
Right. I always thought that track you did for the extra tracks you guys did when you were in Motley, the song you did with Friends. I thought that was great.
Oh yeah. Yeah, I did an acoustic show here in Nashville. If you get a chance, check it out. Like the guys in my band, we kind of rearranged it and did an acoustic version of that song. And we did it at a gig. And it came out really, really good, but it's on YouTube. You can check it out. If you just write Friends live in Nashville, it's pretty cool.
Speaking of songs, what are some of your favorite songs to play live? Like any cover songs that you guys, you really enjoy playing, or you just stick to mainly originals, stuff that you've written?
No, I like doing some covers. Like I just like having fun, and I'm still a music fan as well. So for me, it's not unusual. Like last year when we were on the cruise, my solo band, we did Dancing Days one night. Then another night we did Chip Away the Stone, that old Aerosmith.
Oh, that's good.
Yeah, we did that. We had a blast. And then there's an old mountain song that I actually recorded. When I do my solo record, it'll probably be on there, but I did an old mountain song that I just fucking love the riff in it. So, it's not unusual to do a cover here or there. And then when I do my acoustic shows, I do Seasons of Wither by Aerosmith. I do a Bowie song from the Rise and Fall Ziggy Stardust record. What else? I'll do some Beatles. Whatever.
You did a cover
Hard
of
Luck Woman by Kiss. What now?
I think you were on the Forever Mod CD. I think you did Maggie May. You did a great cover of that.
Yeah, I did Maggie May, and I did Gasoline Alley.
Right.
Yeah, and that was fun. That was it was, even though it was me solo, I had on Gasoline Alley, it was me and Bruce Kulick. And then for Maggie May, it was basically Union. You know what I mean? But right. They had hired me to do that track, and I just, we were doing the Union album, so I just had the Union guys play on it with me. So I love those tracks. It came out great.
Yeah, I remember that CD. When I bought that CD, it's like that song, and I think Janie Lane's on there. I think he does.
Everybody. Yeah, Stephen Piercy, Sebastian, like everybody was on that record.
Yeah,
it was pretty cool.
That was a good cover album. So you got any plans to write a book someday?
Yeah, when I can actually, I started, and then it's just weird to me, like, everybody and their grandmother's doing books now, like, you know, uh, now it's getting to the point where it's not even the bands that are doing the fucking books. It's like the crew guys are doing, like, oh yeah, I was a crew guy for Kiss back in the 70s, and this is what happened. And I'm like, seriously? Like, crew guys are writing books now? So I started doing it, but then I started looking around going, man, everybody's doing a fucking book. Like, I wanted to do something that was special. Like, that's what I love about The Dirt and Walk This Way by Aerosmith and, Keith Richards' book. You know what I mean? But now it's just, the market's just flooded with,
Right.
you know what I mean?
Well, The Dirt's kind of hard to top. I mean,
it is.
It's kind of set the standard.
That's what I wanted to, like, if I do a book, I want it to be a special thing, you know what I mean? And I don't want it to just be a book to do a book, you know what I mean? I want it to be a good book that people can actually read, and, it's not going to be, it's not going to be a motley memoir. It's not going to be any one thing. I think the thing that I wanted to portray in my book is the fact that, I guess it would be a tale of perseverance. You know, like the fact that, there was a brief period of my life when I was younger where, my mom and dad were divorced, but my mom basically raised 4 kids, and there was a point where we were homeless for like 2 years. There was a point where, I was in a band with this guy, and I wound up marrying his sister at 19. She already had a kid, so I was a dad. I was a husband and a dad at like 19 or 20 years old, and then there's packing up, everything, and nothing was happening in Philadelphia, so I moved. I bought an old Philadelphia Fire Department ambulance and a U-Haul trailer, and I moved cross country in this unknown, like, you know what I mean?
Right.
I'm like, fuck it. I'm going to California. Like all these bands like Rat and Poison and all these bands were blowing up, and I'm like, that's where I need to be. And I went there, and just like all these things. And I think it just shows, like, even still to this day, like I go back to Philadelphia and I have friends that were 10 times the musician I was. And they were like, oh, I'm living vicariously through you. And I'm like, well, why is that? You know what I mean? Well, I got married, I had kids, and I'm like, well, then you didn't try hard enough.
Right.
You know what I mean? Yeah. And I think there's a story there. I just got to figure out how to, my story isn't the typical VH1, like, band goes through all this shit. They become huge and famous. Band does so many drugs that they wind up fighting with each other, splitting up. They go their separate ways, and they get back together again, bigger, faster, stronger than ever. It's not that story. So I'm just trying to figure out, like, do I want to do it? Should I do it? Is it something that would even be remotely interesting to anybody? So we'll see.
I think there'd be a fan base for it. I think I would probably crack the spine and read the book.
Oh, I definitely would.
Yeah, I'm big into the reading. I like to read the books. If a rocker puts it out, I'm usually reading it. So,
well, we'll see. I've had some offers, but my wife just recently said to me, she goes, you know what? You need to just get big. You need to just write your own book because nobody tells your stories like you do. She goes, you're funny. They're fucking hilarious stories. A lot of them, they're sad, but you have a way of twisting it and putting some sort of spin on it to where it's at least somewhat humorous. You know what I mean? So
absolutely.
We'll see. I don't know.
Hey, John, one quick question. I got to end it with the question I love to ask. If you had to pick, just right off the top of your head, you pick Dave or Sammy. It always comes down to Dave or Sammy with Van Halen. So that's always the question I like to ask. I try to sneak it in there at the end.
And for obvious reasons, I should probably pick Sammy. But here's the deal, dude. Like, it's kind of the same thing with me and Vince. Like, I don't think anybody, the guys in the band brought me in to be exactly like Vince. Vince and I are apples and oranges, and it's the same with Dave. Dave, in his prime, was a god. You know what I mean? He was a god. But at the end of the day, like, I think Sammy, you know, without being, no disrespect to Dave, Sammy's a better singer. You know what I mean? So, I mean, you know, if we're talking, you know, 1980, I'm going to go with Dave. You know what I mean?
Sure.
But, you know, and also at the end of the day, just like me, I'll be the first person to say Motley Crue is Tommy, Nicky, Mick, and Vince. I'm the asterisk on the side. You know what I mean? So, you know, in their day, the Mighty Van Halen was Dave, Michael, Eddie, and Alex. So let's go with Dave.
All right,
fantastic. Hey, John, we'll see you in a couple weeks down in Columbus.
All right, brother. See you then.
All right.
Say hello if you get there.
Hey, we will.
All right, man.
Have a good one. Take care, John. Bye-bye.